Just kind of a note. This is really, really an important topic. I travel the country and do events on different topics. Social Security is certainly a popular one. Today I did a conference on Social Security. Arguably the two biggest concerns that folks have when they go into retirement, apart from, do we have enough money, and then how do I actually create an income stream and things like that, is really Social Security and healthcare. The question around Social Security is typically, I just want to understand it so that I know what my options are, so that I know I'm not making a mistake when I draw. And, there's nothing in life that is certain. So, things can always go in the wrong direction. But for the average couple, for example, going into retirement, when you talk about Social Security, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're talking about a cost of living adjustment to that income stream that is virtually unbeatable. So when to take it is a really important issue. And so we'll talk about some of the issues around Social Security today. And I want to address a couple of the biggest issues in Social Security. So with that, away we go, I guess. One or two basic things. Social Security has been around for a bit now. Last year paid out $1.2 trillion in benefits to over 65 million beneficiaries. And you can see that 77% of the money went to retired folks, and 14% went to folks that are disabled. And I would like to just talk about that for a second, because the biggest question I get around Social Security disability is this. Someone will come up to me and say, look, I'm collecting Social Security disability. When I reach full retirement age, will my benefit increase? And you can just tell it in their eyes. They are hoping that the answer is yes. Now you've reached full retirement age and your benefit will double or triple or whatever, because often Social Security disability isn't too much. Here's the problem. The answer is not yes. The answer is typically no. Disability, Social Security disability, is the retirement income benefit paid out early, right? So if you don't have lots of work history to bolster your underlying calculation, if your disability takes place when you're, relatively young, like 50, let's say, well, you probably have a relatively low retirement benefit calculation anyway, and now we're paying it out 15 years early, so it will be really reduced. It will get the cost of living adjustment, and then when you hit full retirement age, they flip a switch, and now the disability benefit is a retirement income benefit. So it really doesn't change much. So that's disappointing to a lot of people. And you should know too that, like on that chart there that you hopefully can see, this 14% of the money is going to folks that are disabled. All of these people are under full retirement age. If they were over full retirement age, then the disability benefit would be the Social Security retirement income benefit. They'd move into this category. Hopefully, if you're on this little workshop here, you've been to ssa.gov. If you haven't, please waste no time in going there and setting up your account. All of the work history information, the projection of benefits, and many other things are now on ssa.gov. I remember the days, if you're as old as me, you remember the days when we got this oversized envelope in the mail, and then inside it was an oversized piece of paper. You unfolded it in triple, it was folded in thirds, and then you unfolded it again. So it was almost like a newspaper at the end of the day. And on the one side was your work history, your earnings history, and on the other side was a projection of benefits, what you might get if you take it early or late, and all of that is now online, ssa.gov.
Yeah, Waldean, didn't they used to send that to us 1 month before your birthday each year?
Yeah, I think so. Right, right. It's been a bit now. And the thing is, if you go to ssa.gov, you can print out your most recent statement. So this, what you see on the screen now, is kind of an example of the things you can print out, and I do that a couple times a year to make sure my planning is up to speed. So it's very convenient. You will have to jump through some hoops to prove that you are the person you say you are. So that can be a little interesting. You'll find out they know everything about you because they ask you questions about your financial history, or your addresses, or it's crazy. But you'll get through it, and now you have the account, and you can go into it anytime you want. So when we think about Social Security, primarily we're thinking about income, Social Security income. There are two things that are really, really important. Number one is PIA, and you'll see this on your statements and things as well. PIA, primary insurance amount. Primary insurance amount. That is the amount that you'll be entitled to when you hit FRA, full retirement age. Now, we'll talk about both of these in a second, but this is very much like any pension. If you've ever worked for a company that had a corporate pension, on the day you started, they could tell you when you'd be able to collect a full benefit, right? Because there's a formula under the pension. It's typically based on your age and your length of service. And so okay, at 65 or 66 or whatever it is, you'll be entitled to a full benefit. You may not know exactly what that benefit amount will be, but you will know, exactly when you can claim. So the PIA amount is your full benefit payable to you at full retirement age. Now, interestingly, if you're 50 years old, let's say, and you go to ssa.gov and you open your account, they will have a PIA amount there for you, even though you're not full retirement age. So under full retirement age, this is just an estimate. It's an estimate based on work history, and then they project it forward. And the reason they do that is because there are benefits that are available to people that are under retirement age, and they're usually based on this projected PIA amount. And then as you age, the projected PIA gets closer and closer to the actual PIA amount, and then when you hit full retirement age, they are one and the same. So as an aside, and I don't know that we have to go into it in great detail, a full benefit is calculated based on the highest 35 years of indexed earnings. Now, the term indexed is really important because what they do is they take all of your earnings and they index them for inflation. Kind of want all the dollars to be worth the same. So if I went back and looked at my work history and I saw how little I made coming out of college, after indexing, it looks like a lot more, right? Because they're adjusting it for inflation. Anyway, they take your entire work history, they index it all, and then they take the highest 35 years of indexed earnings. Now, the question I get around this most often is, well, what if I stayed home with the kids for 5 years? Will that affect my benefit? Well, the answer is, do you have 35 years of earnings? If you have 35 years of earnings, there won't be any zeros in the formula, right? Well, what if I retired at 65, but I didn't draw Social Security until 70. Now I have 5 years of no earnings. Same thing, right? Do you have 35 years of earnings? Because if you do, there won't be any zeros in the formula. What if I don't have 35 years of earnings? What if I only have 20? Yeah, now that's a big deal because now you have zeros in the formula. So 35 years of the highest indexed earnings are used to calculate your benefit. But the big question people really want to know is, when should I start? Now, you're all bright people, so you know going into this that there's no one answer for everybody. It absolutely depends on your situation, your analysis. It depends on your financial, your ages. Are you married or single? There are quite a few variables that go into kind of deciding what might be the best thing to do. I talked about full retirement age earlier. Here's a chart showing you what full retirement age is. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, full retirement age was 66. If you had taken Social Security at 62, everything would have been discounted by 25% because you took it early, right? Now, I was born in 1955. My full retirement age was 66 years and 2 months. If I had taken it at 62, it would have been reduced by 25.83%. And if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you take it at 62, it will be reduced 30%. Now, that doesn't automatically mean everybody should wait, because even though you're getting a smaller benefit, you're getting it earlier. So that counts for something.
Waldean, we have a lot of clients, and we did talk about it. I love Craig's response to it. Clients often ask us, I'm not full retirement. Should I start it? And I've got, Craig, I like Craig's answer best because he says, well, if you tell me when you're going to die, then I'll tell you when you should start it. But to kind of build off of that, I like to say, look, this world is not promised to us. And if you've got some longevity in your family, maybe you do want to wait a while. But, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but my grandfathers and my father passed away in their, mid 70s of melanoma type cancers. And, that might mean that, maybe I want to start mine early. Maybe I want to get some of that money that I paid the IRS that I really did enjoy paying the IRS, because I want to actually get some out of it. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I get it. One of our biggest, if not the biggest talking point is just that. I'm going to add a little bit of a twist to it. But I get you. My dad died at 79, but my mom died at 92, right? So it's all kind of all over the board there. We just don't know. This chart, just from a statistical standpoint, kind of answers the question, where is that break-even point? How long do I have to live such that waiting isn't a mistake? Right? So we're dealing with someone here, hypothetical, that has a full retirement age of 67 and is getting $2,000 a month. Now, we're not putting a cost of living adjustment in here because that would really make these numbers huge. On the left-hand side, we're taking less at 62, right? or we're drawing at 64 or 67, 68, 70. Across the top is when I might die, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. So let's just kind of look at this. In this one example, person takes less at 62, dies at 70. They will have collected $134,000. In the next example, they wait to 68. Now, when they turn that on at 68, it's going to be a lot more. But if they still die at 70, they're going to be missing $80,000, right? They got the bigger paycheck, but they didn't get it long enough. Now, if we go to the other end of the spectrum here, take less at 62 and die at 90, we have $470,000. If I wait to 68, take more at 68 and die at 90, now I'm $100,000 to the good, right? Which makes sense too. I waited, got a bigger paycheck, and got it longer, $100,000 to the good. Now, the real answer to the break-even question lies in the middle column, age 80, middle column. Look at this. All these numbers are kind of the same. 302, 307, 312, 311, 297. So if I take less at 62 and die at 80, I will have collected 302. If I take more at 68 and die at 80, I will have collected 311. So age 80, this is one simplistic way of looking at the break-even point. Now, a person might say, well, what about the present value of the money? You know, because even though I took less up here, I did get it early, and that's legit, right? That would move the break-even point from 80 maybe to 81, something like that. But the break-even is not 85 or 86 or 90, somewhere around 80. Now I'm going to make a statement here that's pretty bold, okay? But Judd, it goes back to your observation earlier. If you're single, this is your chart. If you're single when you go into retirement, this is your chart. Everything that Judd said was 100% right. What is there longevity in your genes, or what are the issues here? Because it's just about you. Now, here's the statement that I want you to hear. Here's the biggest talking point that we have. If you're married and you're the primary wage earner, if you're married and you're the one that has the bigger full retirement age benefit, this chart is not for you. It's not accurate anymore, because the primary wage earner controls the survivor's benefit. So with the primary wage earner, there are two people that we're thinking about, not just one. So let me jump the gun here and tell you how this actually works. If you're married, you go into retirement, right? And you're each collecting a Social Security check. At the first death, the smallest check goes away and the biggest check stays. It is that simple, and it happens immediately. Funeral directors have reporting requirements. So, man, they flip that switch in a heartbeat. I always say the adjustment is made before the funeral. But what this means is that for someone who's married and the primary wage earner, this isn't your chart, because it doesn't take into consideration the survivor's benefit that is controlled by the primary wage earner. Here's another way of saying this. I'm the primary wage earner in my marriage. My wife worked harder than I did, but I got paid more. She doesn't like that, but We're counting it a blessing. Anyway, I am going to wait to 70 to get my benefit to be as big as possible. So how does it grow? Well, for every year I delay, I get an 8% increase plus the cost of living adjustment. Plus, because I'm still working, I might actually be increasing my core benefit calculation. So my age 70 benefit is going to look super different than my full retirement age benefit. It's going to be much bigger. I'm going to wait to age 70 to get the biggest benefit I can, because that is my wife's survivor's benefit if I die before she does. Right? And statistics tell us that the average 65-year-old couple going into retirement now, there's a 50 to 60% chance someone's living to 90. So this is a completely different calculation if you're married, if you're the primary wage earner, because now you also control the survivor's benefit. So in my situation, I'm waiting, but my wife started drawing at full retirement age because, just like you said, Judd, I mean, get the money while you can. The problem is we don't know, how long we're going to live. I'm willing to bet that one of us is going to live for a while. And if that's true, the primary wage earner waiting will really pay huge benefits. Now,
Yeah,
again,
how many times do you hear these days, folks, that someone's saying that their grandfather even you used to not hear this a lot, but my grandfather lived to 92, or my grandmother is 95, and so we're definitely, as my quote said, we're definitely living more healthier lives. We're we're lasting a lot longer, and so people definitely take that into consideration if you do have longevity in your family, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. So working in retirement, I just want to talk about how this works and then tell you something that you may not know. So you probably know that theoretically anyway, you can start your Social Security benefit as early as age 62, right? Now it's going to be reduced because you're taking it early, under full retirement age. Any benefit that you get early has an earnings test along with it. Now, the earnings test in this situation basically says that if you're taking your reduced benefit and working, this reduced benefit will be reduced even further. It will be reduced $1 for every $2 you make over $21,240, right? So there's an earnings test that can reduce your benefit because you took it under full retirement age. Once you hit full retirement age, there is no earnings test. So if, like for me, if I was over, which I am, 66 years and 2 months, I could get my full retirement age benefit and earn as much as I could earn, and and my benefit wouldn't be reduced. Right now, here's what you might not know, and this can be important depending on your situation. If you have your benefit reduced, if you have your reduced benefit reduced even further because you make more than 21,240, the amount that they take back because you made more than 21,240 will be given back to you. This is not a permanent loss. This is really important. I can't tell you how many people I talk to. They kind of go into retirement at 62, they start their Social Security, and now they are bored. Or they get the job that they've always wanted. Or they want to start consulting. So now with very little effort, they can get paid for what they know. But then they say, oh, but what a dilemma. This is terrible because if I do that, now I'll lose my Social Security. Any Social Security they take from you because you make more than 21,240, you will get back. So how this works, once you hit full retirement age, they rework the formula from top to bottom, and they throw into the pot anything that they took from you because you exceeded the earnings amount, the earnings test. So they actually increase your check. So if you live to 80, you'll get that money back. So the reason this is important is because if you take Social Security at 62 and then get a great opportunity, take it. Take it. I feel so bad for people that are in this situation and they want to go back to work, but they take jobs that they can't make more than 21,240, They don't understand that, you could make a lot more than that and you wouldn't really suffer a loss here because they'll give that back to you. Most people are not aware of that. Now, we're not going to talk about tax much. This is a forum for tax people, right? It used to be that we didn't pay any tax on our Social Security, but it's been a long time. Now there are basically three levels. Some people that have very low incomes still don't pay tax on Social Security. Some pay tax on half of their Social Security. Some pay tax on 85%. I'm guessing everybody that works with you folks is paying tax on 85%. And then there's this very complicated formula that merges the calculations so that you don't step up from paying no tax on any of your Social Security to tax on half of it in $1 of change. It doesn't work that way. But I don't really think we have to talk about this because this is probably an area that you're very familiar with. And it doesn't, most people who have done a good job in planning for retirement, they're going to pay tax on 85% of their Social Security. Not a lot we can do about that. All right, spousal and survivors benefits. So I'm going to basically make four statements here, one of which I kind of already talked about. When one spouse does not qualify on their own earnings record. So this is the era that I grew up in. My dad qualified for Social Security. He had his 40 credits. My mom did not. She was a full-time homemaker. She stayed home and raised four rambunctious kids and cooked everything from scratch. It was amazing. My spouse is not doing that, but that's okay. So what happens when one spouse does not qualify for benefits and the other does? The primary wage earner gets a benefit based on earnings history and the formula. The spouse gets a 50% benefit. This is called the spousal income benefit. That's a term that refers to 50%. When you hear the term spousal income benefit, you should be thinking 50%. Now, unless they're using the term wrong, right? So a primary wage earner gets a benefit based on earnings history and the formula. The spouse gets 50% of the primary wage earner's PIA amount. And then all of this is adjusted based on whether you take it early or you take it late. Now, the second statement, which is most common now, it's the one that's most common in my world. Both spouses qualify on their own record, right? So here you have kind of the same thing with a little twist. The primary wage earner gets a benefit based on earnings history and the formula. The spouse gets a benefit based on earnings history and the formula, or 50% of the primary wage earner benefit if that's better. So the minimum benefit for a married couple going into retirement typically is 150% of the primary wage earner's benefit, right? Could be more, because if the spouse qualifies on his or her own record and it's more than 50% of the primary wage earner benefit, then they get more than 150%. Hope I made that clear. So the primary gets a benefit based on earnings history, spouse gets a benefit based on earnings history, or 50% of the, oh no, what happened? Can you still hear me, Judd?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear. You just skipped from
Yeah,
the
man, I'm scared here.
technology, as we like to say. It's fantastic when it works, but when it
Oh,
doesn't. There you go. That's where you were.
all right.
Yes,
So
sir.
I better keep going here. So my third screen, benefits for survivors. Now, you can collect a survivor's benefit as early as age 60. There will be an earnings test on it, just like we talked about. But here's my point. I made it early on. If you're both over full retirement age, both collecting a benefit after the first death, the biggest benefit stays. I have found the decision here to be most critical when someone is marginally ready to retire. That's a term that I kind of use. It doesn't mean you're not ready, but you don't have a lot of margin for error here. You need to make money on your money in retirement in order for this thing to work. So you're not independently wealthy. And for those folks, this survivor's benefit becomes a big discussion. The biggest problem I think people have actually in waiting to collect, if they're going to go into retirement, let's say at 65 and wait to 70 for Social Security, they will have to use some of their own resources, right? And they don't want to do that. I don't want to see my IRA account go down while I'm waiting for this bigger Social Security benefit. And I completely understand. But if you're marginally ready, the outcome might be more important than the feelings that you have about your retirement account being used for 5 years. Anyway, on we go. Benefits for a divorced spouse. If you have been married for at least 10 years, divorced for at least 2, not remarried, married for 10, divorced for at least 2, not remarried, you can collect a spousal benefit on the earnings of your ex if that's bigger than your own, right? So here we have that 50% benefit. I work with a gal who's been divorced. She doesn't think she's going to be getting remarried. She's rooting for her ex-husband, right? I'm being a little funny there because she does fine. I'm sure she'll collect on her own account. But that's how it works. The biggest question I get when I talk about this is, well, if I collect against my ex's earnings history, does that affect my ex at all? And of course, the answer is absolutely not. Your ex could have 3 exes collecting against his or her earnings history, and doesn't change that primary wage earners benefit, like Johnny Carson or Liz Taylor, or, well, my brother-in-law Dave, for that matter.
Waldean, question
Yeah.
for you.
What was that?
I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
What what if an ex-spouse starts receiving at age 62 and takes it for a couple of years and then does get remarried? Do they have to then pay that back, or how does that work?
Yeah. No, it's basically, so here that's a great question, and I certainly don't want to sidestep it, but I kind of do, because for all of these benefits there are criteria. Like for a survivor's benefit, how long do you have to be married, and can you be remarried and still collect a survivor's benefit based on your predeceased first spouse? I am unsure. I'll just tell you, I'm unsure of the minutia here. I do believe, though, that once you start a benefit, you are not obligated to undo it. But there are multiple examples that we could query that would create scenarios that I can't answer right off the cuff. Sorry.
One thing I've heard, Waldine, over and over and over, I think we all hate going to the DMV and any other government sponsored
Yeah,
office.
yeah.
But what I have heard, and maybe you can comment on this, is that the folks in the Social Security are really great to work with. At least that's what I've heard.
That's true, and I'll even add to that. I don't know if this is really a good thing or not, but you can do almost everything online now. So if you're of that mindset, if you know how to kind of, work around most web-based things, Social Security can do probably 90% of what you need done online. But the problem with that, though, is as a result of shifting more of their services to online, they've kind of cut and closed some of their local locations. So they are friendly, they do want to help, but it's sometimes difficult to get in front of them.
Can't you get online and set an appointment with your local office, or do you have to call, or how does that work?
Yeah, in some areas you can actually set an appointment online. Yeah, but again, even there, they seem to be overworked.
Yeah, hopefully not as bad as the post office. Golly.
Right, right. So let's just mention one more thing. The last thing is there is a connection between Social Security and Medicare. Now, generally speaking, these are two completely separate systems, right? Medicare is medical insurance, and this get together isn't here to talk about that. That might be another discussion for another time. But there is a premium that needs to be paid on Medicare, a Medicare Part B premium, maybe a Medicare Part D premium. And if you're on Social Security and Medicare at the same time, your premium will come out of your Social Security check. Pretty simple. Nobody likes to pay the Medicare piece of it, but it's got to be paid, and they take it right out of your Social Security check. But there are a couple of variations to this. Someone could be on Social Security, but not Medicare. So for me, for example, I could be collecting a full retirement age benefit and still a part of my company's health plan. So I could be gathering Social Security, but not Medicare, right? So in that kind of a scenario, obviously there's no Medicare Part B or Part D premium to pay because I'm on the company's health plan, and the payment would be out of my paycheck. But the other scenario happens too, where I'm on Medicare, but not Social Security. So I work for a small employer, they have a horrible medical plan, And since I don't make a lot of money, I'm gonna, keep working and not draw Social Security. But as soon as I turn 65, I'm going on Medicare because I need better coverage. Now there, we have a Medicare premium that needs to be paid, but it can't come out of Social Security. In that case, you will have to pay the premium out of pocket. It's billed every quarter, got to pay it. And then as soon as you start Social Security, they'll take it out of the Social Security check. So let me just kind of reiterate, from a financial planning standpoint, and actually we're finding a lot of tax implication in terms of this too. For example, if you delay Social Security, you can fill up your tax brackets with IRA withdrawals at lower rates rather than Social Security money, right? I mean, you'd have to run the analysis on that, and I've oversimplified, but one of the biggest problems we're having now is how do I get all this taxable income out of my retirement plan without, paying too much tax? It's becoming the tax man is happy about our retirement plans. There's more tax revenue being generated than ever before. Anyway, I appreciate your time, Judd. I'll turn it back over to you or Craig.
Thanks so much. Let me just
real quick, Judd, while you're gathering your thoughts on the tax thing. With most of people on here are clients of mine. Waldean is right. Most of you are getting taxed at 85%. Please keep in mind when you sign, 85% of the Social Security wages are being included into your taxable income. Two things I want you to know. Number one, you can have withholdings done. And some of y'all need to. You can be withheld right out of Social Security. It's voluntary withholding. If you have questions about that, please ask me. Number two, North Carolina, these states can't touch your Social Security. So that's one good thing. You'll notice that here in North Carolina, states are not touching it. But a main thing I want to get across is the withholdings, because some of y'all owe tax every year, and it's because 30,000, 45,000 of your income is coming from Social Security, and you're not withholding tax from it. So that is something that I do want to stress to people. That was it, Judd. Go ahead and take it over.
Yeah, I want to thank Waldean for being our guest speaker tonight. Definitely hope that our audience has learned, gleaned some information from it. I'm very excited about this whole series, and I want to mention that the one coming up on the 24th, it's not going to be for everybody, although there is one section, one component of it that I think could be for everyone. If you're a client of mine, did you know that I'm very philanthropic? My grandmother made me promise her that I would actually tithe, and that I would give away to great charities and things of that nature. And she told me that would come back to me tenfold, not necessarily monetarily, but in some shape or form. And certainly when I was attacked, some of my clients know this, I was kind of left for dead. And miraculously, 4 weeks later, I was back on my feet. And I feel like it was because I gave it forward a little bit. And so we're going to talk about a easy way to create a charitable remainder trust. It's called the Legacy Income Trust. And this one could be for anyone because there is no accreditation around it. So I'm very excited for that one. So don't think that, this one on the 24th is not necessarily for you. We are going to have a couple of different components in there talking about a discounted Roth conversion, which also is a diversifier in a different area of real estate. Also, we're going to talk about one of Craig's favorite vehicles that we use for tax mitigation, For those that are not into oil and gas, then maybe it's not for you, but it's certainly worth listening to, because believe it or not, despite what the folks in Washington have been telling us for the last few years, our government has always wanted us to be energy independent. And so if you invest into oil and gas exploration here in the United States, you can get up to a 92% income tax deduction, which is part of the return that I like to tell clients about. And those that were in the 2022 fund, Craig, is that right? Shake your head, yes or no? Yes, 2022 fund, because gas prices got up to 117 a gallon, and they aren't too cheap today. They had a 35% cash on cash return in a single year, plus the 40-some% that they saved between the Fed and the state. So if you are into saving taxes, then you should definitely plug in to our October 24th date. Other than that, I want to thank everyone for being on the webinar today. I want to thank my clients for your business, and above all, the trust that you have put into our hands. And thank you very much. I think that's all I've got. You got anything more, Craig?
That's it. Waldean, thanks again for coming on and talking to my clients about Social Security. Everybody have a great night.
Have a great evening. We finished up early. Take care. Bye-bye.